Hi, bit tired today, so I'm pretty much having the day off. I took one of my young stallions to a one-day event yesterday, and so it was a bit of a long day. I'd say he was good. He was good in the ring. He wasn't good outside of the ring, but that's pretty much the deal with him. Warm-up arenas, there's lots of other horses around, a little bit stressful, not stressful, frustrating for him, let's just put it that way. And that's just because he's got balls and he's young. But it's been, with the horse stuff, it's been a long, hot summer, and I'm just like, whew. And today is this lovely, cool day. So do you know what I'm doing? I'm actually planting some planters outside my house, and I don't do any gardening, and so I had to text my friend yesterday. I was like, I'm gonna plant some planters. What do I buy? She had to meet me at the garden store and basically showed me all the things to buy. I'm gonna put flowers outside my house. I've never actually bothered doing that sort of thing before, but I think it would look nice. Anyway, so that's how exciting my day is today. I'm not doing much other than that and sitting around drinking tea. I've drunk so much tea today. Something about a cup of tea that is the most just soothing. I love a good cup of tea. All right. Somebody commented on the live that I did on August 4th, and they said, can you talk about long-term eating disorders that are very entrenched and impact long-term health problems, etc. So the body is an amazing thing, and I have worked with plenty of people that are in their 60s and even their 70s and might have had an eating disorder since their teens. So really long-term, really entrenched eating disorders. And I'm often surprised and in awe of how few long-term health problems they actually have. Now, of course, there can be and often are long-term health problems. But when you think about it, it's amazing that there are more. It's amazing that the body just carries on with insufficient income, and it's sort of miraculous. I have worked with some people in their 60s who have got themselves recovered and really have not had many long-term health issues. Circulation is a really common one. So most people that have had long-term eating disorder are going to have circulation issues. Most people that have had long-term eating disorder are going to have some sort of heart thing, and it doesn't mean that it's awful. That's the biggest one I think that people need to worry about, though, is because that can kill you quickly. And I have known, and unfortunately known, people that have died quite suddenly from heart failure because they've had long-term eating disorder. But I think that the majority of people don't die of heart failure, thank God. But the majority of people just have, what's the thing when one of your heart cavities gets elongated? I think I've got that. I think it's mostly benign. I hope it is. And so that's another one which can be serious, but isn't always serious. And then metabolic things. I'm trying to think of the other common ones. I think that those are the most common ones. Anyway, I don't want to go into too much of all the long-term health things that can happen. I just want to actually point out, though, that the body is incredible, and you'd be surprised at how many things can heal and be fixed when the body is supplied with enough nutrition. It surprises me all the time. It's amazing. And so if you've had an eating disorder for 20 or 30 years, I think what's really common is people say, oh, you know, it's sort of not worth recovering because I've already got X and Y, Z wrong with me, and I'm already going to have this thing and that thing, which, if you think about it, is just a complete cop-out, isn't it? You're sort of saying, well, it's not worth recovering because I've already damaged this so much, so I may as well keep on damaging it, rather than I'll actually give my body the chance to see if it can heal some of this and certainly improve my chances of increasing the damage that I've done. But I think that when people are afraid, which everybody is when they go into recovery, then the brain just tries to find out all the weird and wonderful excuses that might put us off actually doing what we're afraid of. That's what that's really about, isn't it? I think that one of the things that also really surprises me is the mental health impacts of having an eating disorder for a long term. And there's usually depression. Of course, there's anxiety. Of course, there's OCD. there are, I wouldn't call it a mental health impact, but maybe it is the social side of things. Very small limited social circle, if there's a social circle at all. Tried relationships with family members and those things. And that's another thing that I think that sort of just improves miraculously and amazingly when somebody recovers from a long-term eating disorder. A lot of the time, depression gets worse during recovery, and usually maybe the 6 months to the year after recovery can be a difficult time. But then that generally starts to improve to levels that are sort of far better than that person maybe even remembers in their lifetime. Anxiety generally increases during recovery. That usually is quicker to get better. And the social stuff, it's always the most beautiful thing. It unfolds, people unfold regardless of what age they are when they get recovered. You could be 70, you could be 75, you could be 80. Things just unfold socially, and that's a wonderful thing to watch happen from my point of view. And kind of quickly for a lot of people as well. And then it's when that starts to happen, when all of those things get better and life becomes really a lot more worth living, that people really see the benefits of getting themselves recovered and enjoying the small things in life, like sitting and having a cup of tea with a friend, or meeting a friend at the garden centre because you're so shit at plants that she's sick of you phoning her every 5 minutes and it's just like, oh, just hang on, I'm coming to come and do it with me. Like, it's just the small things in life, having friends, having people around, that makes life pretty wonderful. And I think that I'm always so pleasantly surprised for people how relationships improve, their relationships with their families improve, and things like that. And that is a health impact, isn't it? I think relationships, being happy, I think that's really important for our health. So I'm going to include that as a long-term health thing. But the entrenched comment there, I think entrenched is a word that is unnecessary. It doesn't mean much to me. I guess we call somebody entrenched in their eating disorder when they've had an eating disorder for a number of years and they are very rigid in their behaviours and their thought patterns. Well, all that is neural pathways, isn't it? And those can be changed. And so just because something is quote unquote entrenched, or somebody is entrenched in their disorder, to me that does not really mean anything is going to differ in the approach that I take to them with recovery. They still need to do and will do the same work that somebody that's had an eating disorder for a shorter amount of time will have, and they will still recover at the same rate as a person who's had an eating disorder for a shorter amount of time will have. And really, it just doesn't change anything, because a neural pathway is a neural pathway. It doesn't mean if it doesn't matter if that neural pathway's been there 10 years or that neural pathway's been there 10 months. A neural pathway is a neural pathway, and we can learn our way or teach our way out of a neural pathway. We can build different neural pathways. And so that the whole entrenched thing, again, I think that people use it as a bit of an excuse to give up, and a lot of the time people use it as an excuse to not even try. And I don't love it when treatment providers use that word entrenched either, because I think that that's a label that they're putting on somebody that then says to that person, you don't need to bother, you're not going to recover, it's fine, don't even try. And I just don't see the significance, because I don't see any difference. So if I have a client that's in their 60s and they want to get recovered, they will recover at the same rate and with just as much success as somebody who's 16 and have an eating disorder for 6 months. So to me, it doesn't mean anything of any significance. And so if you're using the word entrenched because somebody once threw that at you and now it feels like it's a label, and it feels like something that's a valid sort of like, well, I can't recover because it's harder for me. It's harder for me because it's entrenched. It's not harder for you because it's entrenched. It's just the same. It's just the same. You're changing neural pathways. And we can make up all sorts of stories about that as to why, well, actually, it's harder for me because I've done it since I was 20 and I've been doing the same thing since I was 20 and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, but you could also just stop doing that right now. You could. Bad barriers are all in your head. And so I think that the less that people can allow themselves to use labels and words like that as an excuse not to just get the fuck on with it, then the better. And so all of you out there that have been given that label, entrenched, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. It doesn't mean that you can't recover. It doesn't mean that if you try and recover, it will be harder for you than anybody else. It doesn't mean that you're going to have more long-term problems necessarily after you recover. It doesn't mean that you will still have fragments of your eating disorder forever if you try and recover. In my experience, none of those things are true due to the duration of time that person has had an eating disorder. Also, in my experience, I say this a lot, if somebody is willing and able to do the work that they need to do to rewire fear of weight gain and to fully recover from an eating disorder, they can and they will do that, and they can do that in a relatively short space of time. Recovery does not have to take long. Well, if you do it right, anyway, it shouldn't do. And so, entrenched, it's just a word. It doesn't mean anything, so don't let it mean anything. It can mean everything if you let it, or it can mean absolutely nothing. And I think that the more that we can look forward and say, okay, well, I spent 20 years fucking it up, doesn't mean that I have to spend the next 10 years fucking it up, does it? And stop and start something different. It's a bit like me with the gardening. I've spent, how old am I? I'm either 41 or 42. I was born in 81. So I'm 42. I've spent 42 years being shit at gardening. And I just decided yesterday, I'm not going to be shit at gardening anymore. I'm going to have beautiful flowers outside my house. Doesn't matter that I spent 42 years being shit at gardening. I'm going to decide not to be shit anymore, and I will not be shit anymore, and it'll be beautiful. I'll send you pictures. Okay, bye.